Thanks to our sponsor, this episode of Crazy Fitness Guy Healthy Living Podcast was created using Podcastle. Podcastle is truly the easiest way to start your podcast. You can record remote interviews in studio quality sound. Editing is a breeze with a super intuitive and user-friendly audio editor. You can take advantage of their powerful AI tools like Magic Dust to optimize audio levels and remove background noise with just a single click. And I also use Podcastle to automatically transcribe my episodes, which not only lets me share the final transcript with all of you, my listeners, on different channels, but it even allows me to use their text editor to clean up any of the episode content I don't like, and I'll correspondingly edit the audio accordingly. Podcastle is amazing, all-in-one platform to create your podcast or any audio and video content. Give it a try at podcastle.ai. That is podcastle.ai. I am what you call an indie podcaster. If I run out of money, there's nobody backing Crazy Fitness Guy. How you can support Crazy Fitness Guy is becoming a premium subscriber to Crazy Fitness Guy Premium Podcast. Our first plan is called Load Crazy. You'll get 100% ad-free content with zero sponsorships and zero commercials. The second plan we have is called Crazy. For $3.99 a month, you get access to full episodes for the full library archives, early access to the shows. All episodes are ad-free, shout-outs on the show, and you will be helping support our mission, and all the episodes are unedited. For the next plan, if you go year-long for $30 a year, they're extremely crazy. You get everything in the crazy plan, plus you'll get access to exclusive members' private Facebook group, and bonus ask me about anything episodes, and you get to suggest topics for the show in the Facebook group. So if you want to help support Crazy Fitness Guy, there's 3 plans starting at $2.99 a month, going up to $30 a year. So it's $2.99. The next plan is $3.99, and then $30 a year. So thank you for all your support for the years, and I'm looking forward to continue making content just for you. Thank you. To become a premium podcast subscriber, click the links in the show notes and see which plan is right for you.
Welcome to Crazy Fitness Guy Healthy Living Podcast, where we strive to motivate people who are on the autism spectrum to live healthy lifestyles. If you think this podcast is only for people who are autistic, then think again. Whether you are autistic or not, we have a mix of content from healthy living to everything in between that makes up a balanced and healthy life. Autism is our backbone, and we strive to support the autism community by motivating, inspiring, and educating everyone about what autism is. Please welcome your host, Jimmy Clare, who is a motivational speaker, autism advocate, author, and founder of crazyfitnessguide.com.
Welcome to another episode of Crazy Fitness Guy's Healthy Living Podcast. I got my friend Annie, who's going to talk about, I'm just going to let her introduce herself because why not? Welcome aboard, Annie.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. A little bit about myself. So my name is Annie Treml. I'm a family support strategist. I help families, parents and siblings of children with disabilities to feel a connection amid the chaos and to make sure everyone's needs get met without adding more to their plate. I tend to focus mostly on behaviors within the family to help the family calm that chaos and create that connection.
So how come you wanted to go into this career?
Well, I've made a long meandering journey to get to the point where I am today. It started with me being the eldest sibling of a person with a disability. I'm the oldest of 5. Then comes another sister and a sister after that, my sister Dubes, who has autism and intellectual disability. And then I have 2 brothers after that. So growing up within a family with disability obviously kind of led me towards what ended up being my first career, which was as a school psychologist. So I worked with students in public schools and then went on to own a private practice. And now I support families through coaching.
I can definitely relate a little. I mean, I can relate because I'm on the autism spectrum, as you know. And I can also relate because I had multiple jobs before I mean, not full-time, but they were part-time. And I can tell you, I did not like any of them until this one.
Like what you're doing now, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah. Like the other ones, my dad was like, but you were getting paid consistently. Yeah, money doesn't make me happy.
Well, go ahead.
And like, yeah, it can sure make life easier, but doesn't make me
Absolutely.
happy.
Well, and that's what it's all about, right? I think we all go through a lot of different, I mean, I think it's not uncommon. I don't want to say everyone because that would be generalizing, but I think it is really more common for people to try a number of things before they find what's important to them, what they would do for no money, right?
Yeah. And more what I'm kind of curious about, and I don't think I could ask my brother this, and if I did, I probably might not like his answer. I don't know his opinion. He's really busy with his job as an accountant for me to even ask. But what is it like being an older brother? I mean, older sister to someone who's somebody on the autistic spectrum? Because I'm the youngest of my family, and my brother's the oldest. There's only the 2 of us growing up, and I kind of wonder if I made his life miserable as hell.
Well, so there's 2 parts to this. One is that I understand why you say you wouldn't ask your brother, because yes, siblings, it doesn't matter what kind of siblings, right? Disability, no disability, your job is to drive each other crazy. And siblings are so good at that. I know that was true in my family. I feel like they drove me crazy, but I have a sinking feeling they would say the same thing about me. That being said, I think being the older sister to a person with disability, man, there was a lot of mixed feelings there. I felt so protective of my sister. And I felt such warmth toward my sister because of all the things that she worked through, struggled through, all the things she achieved, with everything that she was dealing with. I also had those days where, like, for instance, my sister absolutely perseverated on MTV and loved it. So if you even tried to change the channel when I was a kid from MTV to anything else, it was a big deal. Those kinds of things made me cranky like they would any sibling. Like, man, give me control of the TV. Can't you ever just take a break? On the other hand, there was some deeper resentments and jealousies too. She got a lot of attention. She had a lot of needs, and that makes sense, right? We had to make sure she got to the doctor, and I would never, as a sibling, have asked for anything different. I wanted her to be well. But I think that balance of power, that was really tough as a sibling. So it was weird, day to day, on one hand, you absolutely love your sibling, and you feel close to them, and you feel like you're their protector, their interpreter, their caregiver. And on the other hand, sometimes that stuff got old and you got mad at them and you just wanted to be their sibling and yell and fight and scream. Sometimes that wasn't okay. So, there's a huge balance there. I think it's more complicated than a typical sibling relationship.
And did you ever find that? Did you ever felt like let's say you had friends over to the house, and did you ever felt embarrassed that you're related to this person and you didn't want them hanging out with your friends and whatnot?
I never had that experience. I really didn't. I was never embarrassed. I was, like I said, I was more I was proud. I was a protector. It was more that occasionally people would make ignorant comments or use ignorant wording and phrases. And in that case, you would see me kind of rise up. And I was a pretty mild child. I was very introverted. I didn't like to speak up. But if you said something about my sister, you would see my chest rise up, my shoulders come back, and I would tell you exactly what I thought and why you were misinformed. So I was never embarrassed. It never bothered me. I do remember a time when some young girls, I was probably 10 and my sister's probably 8. Some young girls from down the street, a couple came down to ask actually my sister to play, which never happened because she was limited verbally and socially. So she didn't have a lot of friends who came over, but these girls came over to play. And I remember seeing my mom talking to them at the front door. And I was very excited for my sister because this just didn't happen. And I remember my mom sent the girls away and I asked her why that happened. And her response, I can't tell you exactly what she said because I don't remember, but I'll tell you the gist of what she said. Her response was, "We have to be really careful about who spends their time with Abby," who's my sister. "Sometimes their intentions are not as positive as we think. And sometimes being young, they don't necessarily know how to interact with her best." And so she turned them away. And I remember being floored by this because as a kid, I was very much feeling like she would be very excited like this, like any kid would when someone came to play. But that really opened my eyes to how complicated the situation was and to how difficult it must be to be the parent and caregiver of a child. I know my mom wanted her to have those relationships, but her fear that something would go wrong was stronger than that want for her. And so it didn't happen. So it's crazy. So, I mean, like my relationships with friends didn't change, but I always found it's so complicated for her to have those relationships.
I can definitely relate to that. Growing up in this school, I didn't know how to make friends, but yet somehow I made friends anyway. To be honest, I don't remember how any of my friendships started with people. I mean, I remember my next door neighbor. How we made friendships. We were moving in to our house. They were there way before us, and we were moving from New Jersey into Pennsylvania. And our Pennsylvania house, we were just moving in, kind of just taking a look around the house, just going up the stairs. He just walks into the front door and is like, "Hey, my name is so-and-so." And I was like, "This is strange." And we've been friends since, friends since I moved to Pennsylvania. And then my other friend, I've been friends with him since like third grade. And I was like, I don't even know how it all began.
I think that's awesome. And, I don't know about you, but it really makes it easier for me to make friends when someone else does the dirty job of introducing themselves first.
Yep, probably that's how I went about that too.
That's awesome, though. Yeah, I have long friendships that started very much the same way.
And have you? Did you ever treat your sister differently because she's was autistic and?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no doubt that in many ways, my relationship with her was different than my relationship with my other typically developing siblings. There's no doubt about it. There's certainly some of the same things. I mean, we fight like other siblings do.
Forget everything that you know about a web browser because you will be blown away by Psychic Browser. It's no ordinary web browser like Firefox, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and all the other web browsers out there. It's based on productivity, and let me just name a few other functionalities that it has. It's very fast. It blocks ads by default. You don't see that with Google Chrome, do you? No. And there's also a built-in sidebar, so you can have all your tools and systems all in one place without having to go search and wait for the web page to load. It's just right there with a click of a button. Try Sidekick out below with the link in the show notes and descriptions for more information about Sidekick. It'll boost your productivity probably tenfold, because that's what I use it for, is productivity. Check out Sidekick and tell them I sent you.
Even as adults, we still get on each other's nerves sometimes, just like any siblings would. Your personalities, you have very specific personalities, just like any two people, and sometimes they don't always mesh. But, I do feel like we all took more care with my sister Dubes, just because, physically she required more care. She couldn't do a lot of the same things that we could do all the time. Sometimes there was medical things going on or whatnot. And I think just mentally, we gave her a little more breathing room because we knew that her capacity to cope with certain things that bothered her, it was smaller. So we had to give her more space to be okay, to be happy. We were fine with that because we grew up with that. That's how, that's something that from the very beginning we knew she needed as an individual person. So it never struck us as different until I know for me, when you get into that teen years and you start to see other people's families, that's the first time, I'd visit other friends' houses and go out of my own house. Then I would see the difference between a family with disabilities within the house and a family without. That's the first time I kind of started making those connections. Oh, there is some differences. Before that, it never occurred to me that my house was any different than anybody else's.
Well, I don't know how my brother found out, or maybe my parents told him, but he always just treated me like any other brother would, just drive my life miserable, just drive me to crazy. I know it wasn't just all fighting back and forth, but it just we just always got on each other's nerves no matter what we did. Like I would play video game. I want to play video games. He's on the computer for homework, and it's like, I want to freaking play video games. And it's like, I'm doing homework. Screw your homework.
Yeah,
I hated school back then.
Two brother siblings, yeah. But what's so funny is, that sibling relationship, right? We never realize it, but that is the longest relationship most of us will have in our lives, is with a sibling. They know us from birth to death. We get a shorter time with our parents, we get a shorter time with our friends, but our siblings are with us the whole time. So, it's a good thing that we can accept each other, the good and the bad, hopefully, right? Because it's a long haul. It's a long relationship.
Yeah, it could be like my I can't even say this story, but it's like my dad and one of his siblings that they don't even talk to each other.
Yeah.
And which is sad. I'm not going to say why, because that's not my story to tell.
Right.
That's a whole nother buttload that's extra crazy.
But you know what? I think it's not uncommon in families with disabilities. I think if we have siblings who continue to talk to each other into adulthood and have a good relationship, I think oftentimes it's actually rarer. A lot of the families I work with, when you get into adulthood, those siblings, they become further apart. They separate more because there was resentment and jealousy in childhood that was never really dealt with, right?
Yeah. Well, I think for my parents, they gave both of me and my brother equal attention. They always treat us equally. They didn't like, oh, Jimmy gets to do this extra because so and so. They treat us like pretty much, literally the same. They said it was like for whatever reason, my parents they always wanted us to get good grades, obviously, in school, and they did not accept anything lower than a B. If you got a C, you're grounded. And what's really funny, now that I'm in college, it's like, oh, you just need a C to pass. And I was like, what changed?
I'm confused.
I'm confused. This is not right.
Well, it sounds like your parents did a wonderful job.
They're far from perfect, but
Don't tell them that. Don't tell
anybody. They'll probably will listen to this and probably you're grounded. I'm 27 years old. You're still grounded.
Oh, always our parents. They're always our parents. Doesn't matter how old we get, huh?
Yeah, that's for sure. Uh, so, when you help out these families, do you ever, is it a struggle with helping them out, or?
I mean, it's my joy. It's my joy to help families. It's what I love to do, which is why I do it. But is it hard sometimes? Yeah. I mean, it's hard to see families struggle. And it's hard when those struggles are not something that can change. In a lot of typically developing families, it often comes down to choices, and you can change something drastically with a simple choice. But in a family with disabilities within the family, a lot of things can't change, right? They are what they are. And there's things we have to do and things we have to deal with, and decisions we have to make that we really have fewer choices about. So I think that's sometimes hard for families to come to realization and to grips with. And it's hard for me because I want to help them, but some things are just the way they are.
And if you, so could you share a little bit of, like, not to get into super specific details, but could you share some of those challenges?
Well, I think a lot of the challenges I see with families is that there's three things that generally aren't in place if families are really struggling. That is, there's not boundaries in place. Oftentimes, people in the family are giving to each other and not giving to themselves. So they can't maintain a balance of wellness for themselves. There's also self-advocacy, right? When we are in families that need our support, oftentimes we're not sure how to balance advocating for ourselves and our need and advocating for someone else's needs. We don't know how to balance those two to keep us well. And then the last thing is a circle of support. And that's probably the most important thing in any family, frankly, but particularly in families with disabilities where we need more support and where we're apt to run into medical issues or other things that kind of throw everything into chaos. We need a plan so that when those things are thrown into chaos, we already know how to get the help we need, or things are already in place so that it feels more routine. It doesn't feel so bothersome, so frightening, and it doesn't throw us into a tailspin, into chaos. So I'd say, boundary, self-advocacy, and creating that circle of support are what most families need to get kind of back on track.
Well, to be honest with you, when we had to reschedule, I honestly, I didn't know that the people that was coming to clean my house a few weeks ago were coming, and it kind of threw me for a loop because they don't come at. Since we are literally set up every other week, they come at different times. And so then one week they might come at 1 o'clock, they might come at 2 o'clock, today they come at 3 o'clock. And I still don't like when stuff is not consistent. Yeah. And that's why basically the days when I have my podcast interviews, I always set them up is it an hour either at 2 o'clock and so on, and just always like same time, same place, and I'm a control freak.
Yeah, that routine helps you, right? You rely on it. Yeah, I don't blame you. That would set me off too.
And so basically, when I had the schedule, I was just kind of like my whole afternoon was just thrown for a loop, and it's like, okay, where am I going to go? And then, but like today, I knew that they were coming, but I was like, I'm going to use the third floor today. And it's like, because it's quiet, there's a door. And
but that's the thing, like you are just reinforcing what I just said. Essentially, right? Because you had a plan, you had an alternative plan for if something happened. You had supports in case something kind of threw your routine off, something in place. You have a third floor available to you, even if you don't like to use that, right? It's there. So you're doing exactly what you need to support yourself.
That's a nice third floor. Just, I like my bedroom, but, and my dad said I could use his office, but where I wanted to be on the highest floor as possible. So when they're using a vacuum, it's not going over the floor above me. It's like, oh, this is lovely for a podcast. Awesome. Good idea. Here's some soothing background noise.
Well, that's a good way to think about it. I like that.
Oh, I might put that in the next episode. Soothing cleaning noise.
Right.
Just one episode cleaning noise.
You never know. There's probably an audience for that.
Yeah, probably not my audience. They're probably like, what is wrong with this person? Is it broke? Hello? I don't hear any talking.
I'm pretty sure they'd tune in for you, even if it was vacuum noise.
No, I probably wouldn't tune in for my. The internet can be a distraction place. It's full of distractions like social media, shopping, and so many more websites that are very distracting, just like video games and whatnot. But it is all over the place. So much noise going on. Well, with a blocker tool like Freedom Blocker, it can block all those distraction websites that you find distracting. I block RuneScape, Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media marketing tools. Without Freedom Blocker, I wouldn't be able to run crazyfitnessguy.com because I'd be distracted all day long. But thanks to them, so I'm no longer distracted. Go to visit the web link in the show notes for more information about Freedom Blocker, for more information about what they do, what they are, and whatnot. And you can, and the best part about Freedom Blocker, you can use it on all of your devices: Apple, Windows, Macs, tablets, and more. Visit them to learn more information. So, so do you have your own website and everything for your
I do. Thanks for asking. You can find me at annietreml.com, or you can find me at Annie Treml Connects on Facebook and DM me directly if you're interested in talking. I reply to all those messages, and I would love to talk to special needs families.
And do you do stuff virtually, or do you just do locally, or whatnot?
I do work virtually. I work online with families, and there's multiple ways I work with families, but I always start online and by speaking with the parent of the special needs family.
And just out of curiosity, how many people do you help out? Unless you don't want to say.
At any given time?
Yeah.
I can work with up to about 3 to 4 families at any given time, depending on how in-depth the work that we're going into and what we're doing.
So how many years have you been doing this for?
Well, working with special needs families, it's been a long time. I don't want to age myself, but I worked as a school psychologist for 16 years, working with disability families, both publicly and privately. And I've been doing coaching for a little under a year now, specifically with families. So we're talking close to 17 years.
Well, again, I can't do the math in my head, so.
I wouldn't ask you to.
You don't look old at all.
Well, thank you. That's sweet of you to say.
I'm old. I feel old because I have a lower back problem, and I blame my old insurance company. I'm not going to say their names. I would love to.
That's probably a good idea.
Maybe I should start using a cane just to annoy them. I don't know.
We got to do what we got to do.
You nasty.
Oh.
Well, it's because I see a lot of specialty doctors, and it's like, and for my physical therapy for my knee, I was because I did something to my knee. I can't even tell you what I did to it. I didn't like bang anything in it, but what my physical therapist told me, and I was at to find a new one now because of my new insurance, is that my knee, my hip bone is slightly more at more than a 90-degree angle, like a regular hip or hip joint or whatever. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a doctor, and so they and he said, and like basically because I have 2 inward pointing knees, I was like your leg really wants to correct it, and it tries its best, but it knows it can't do it, so you're kind of just So every time when I do a lunge, I'm literally off bounds and putting too much pressure on it. And I was like,
Yeah,
this
it
sounds,
sounds, yeah, it sounds like everything's maybe out of line,
yeah. And
which would be painful.
yeah, and I think maybe when I was doing a lunge in karate, I kind of just like toppled over. And so then I kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say sprained it, but maybe twisted something in it. I can't exactly tell you because
Uh,
it happened at like sometime when this whole before the pandemic started.
mhm.
And then I would say really painful. It just kind of, I just let it go because I was just like, oh, maybe it's get better by itself. But then near the end of the semester, I was kind of just getting tired of last semester. I was just getting tired of it all. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to start looking into this.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know?
No, you don't surprise me at all. I know way too many people, including myself, who just say, "Oh, it'll get better. It'll get better," until we're in pain, and then we're like, "Uh-oh, what did I do to myself?"
And I kid you not, I was literally 2 weeks. I felt like I only needed 2 more weeks with the physical therapist, and the insurance is like, we're cutting you off. And I'm like, I pay you X amount of dollars, and you what? Stick your nose out of my own business, please. I didn't say that to them, but
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Insurance companies are a pain in our side, that's for sure.
Or the other one.
Yeah, or the other one. Can't say that, but
It's implied.
that's right.
And no, to all the people listening, I did not say the curse word. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, before we wrap up, so is it? Would you? Do you think? What do you think is the best way for people to help a person on the autism spectrum in their own family?
I think, obviously every family's different, and I like to customize like my recommendations for families. But in general, I say, if you're living with someone with autism, particularly a child with autism, which is what I kind of work with, I say, make sure you're not isolated. That's my biggest tip. We have a tend to isolate ourselves when things get stressful. Often many people with autism, as you know, isolate themselves. And then we find that families tend to follow suit because you're under so much stress. You're not sure where to turn to for support, and you don't want people to worry about you. So you tell everybody, I'm fine. Things are fine. Everything's good. But the last thing you should do is be isolating yourself. So if you're needing support, if things are not going well, and if you're not getting the answers that you need from other doctors or other people, continue to seek support. Ask your friends for help. Be honest in what you need. Ask kindly, ask often, and ask clearly. And you'd be amazed how often people are willing to help.
And I kind of lied. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
I break my own rules on the show. Whatever. Out of just curiosity, is it when you mean isolation? Do you mean being in a separate room, or do you mean just like, oh, today I feel perfectly fine, but in the back of your mind is like, screw the world?
I'm glad you asked for clarification. I'm thinking more of the second. So more of what you said regarding sometimes you just feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders, whether you have a disability or not. And because so few people understand disabilities, we tend not to share what's happening in our families because it makes people uncomfortable. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to help us. So we tend to isolate ourselves a little and pretend it's all fine. But that kind of stress builds up. It doesn't go away. It just adds and adds and adds on top of each other. So, and we end up isolating ourselves and letting everyone think we're okay. And I guess what I'm saying is don't do that. Let people know when you're struggling. Let people know when people in your family are struggling, and let them know, clearly, kindly, and quickly what they need to do and can do to help you, because they may not know how to help you, so they don't ask. But if you tell them what you need, there are so many people, I think we know that, right? Really good people who want to help us if we just tell them what we need.
And And we got one more question.
Go
I
ahead.
said that again. Woohoo! Is it uh, uh, just I was just thinking. So for me, I know there's some days where I kind of just I get so kind of I'd say just having like so many different thoughts going on in my head, and I kind of felt I kind of do feel like sometimes I carry the world on my shoulders, and I'm not saying like, oh, I'm just holding up the world and here's me, but I feel like sometimes how does someone like get that weight off of their shoulders? Because I know for me, running a whole website by myself, it's kind of daunting some days. Where it's like, gee, I'm one person, and it's like, it's like, be nice if I had extra hands, but I know
Yeah.
that's not going to happen anytime soon at the moment.
But no, I totally get what you're saying. I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if you do what a lot of people do, which is hide that, how hard that is for you sometimes. Do you do that?
I wouldn't say I hide it. I'm more of like, I get quiet, and my mom basically knows when I'm like always talkative, I'm in a relatively good mood. But when I kind of shut my thoughts up in a box in my head, or I'm like really just ticked off or grumbling to myself, I tend to. She figured out, and it's like, you sound in a bad mood, and it's like, gee, what was the first key
Well,
clue?
she knows when you're overwhelmed. And my guess, being that she's your mom and you've talked about her a bit in this podcast, is that she does what she knows how to do to help you, right?
Sometimes.
Unfortunately, well, right. Unfortunately, most people don't know us that well. So my guess, my thought to you kind of goes back to what I just said before, which is when you notice those things about you, when you're feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, when you need help, whether that's simply people helping draw that information out of you, or you need help doing actual things, maybe in your business or with your website, again, I encourage you to stop, to breathe, and to remember that just because you're struggling doesn't mean everyone knows it. You need to tell people exactly what they can do to help you quickly, kindly, and often. And if you do that, you start to create a pattern with people. They'll begin to see those cues in you, and they'll know when to ask you for help as well. And you'd be amazed how often people are happy to do these very small things to take that burden off of you. And many times, it's in areas where they happen to be really good at something. Like if you know someone who's great with your website, even if you're not, for instance, that person could take 2 minutes to do that, happy to help you with something that might have really been weighing on you and would have taken you a lot longer.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of my friends who's a developer, and it's amazing the stuff that he does. Like what would take me probably a few days to figure out, he's like, oh, let me get that done for you. And he literally, it's like 5 minutes for him, and it's like,
Yeah.
you make me look bad. It's like, I took a beginner coding class, and it's like, oh, this is not beginning. I was like, definitely it's not beginner, but still, it's like, you make me look bad.
Well, and I can relate to the website stuff because that's not my area either. And I can tell you myself that when I have someone else do that stuff, that weight lifts off my shoulders. I automatically feel a lot better because it's just not a weight that was meant to be on my shoulders. And sometimes we forget that we can give our burdens to others and it's not burdens to them.
I think the one thing that kind of burdens me at times, it just some of the companies that I use for like this scheduling for scheduling stuff, when stuff doesn't work the way that's set up to work, and then there's a hiccup in their system, it kind of just gets annoying to me because then then you literally send a message to support and they can literally get back to you who knows when, and I love some of the companies who just take advantage of the pandemic, and it's like, well, due to high volume and everything, we'll get back to you like whenever. And I'm like, thank you. I was like, am I talking to customer service at Comcast? I said that.
I feel your pain, Jimmy. I feel your pain.
Yeah. Hello, this is Comcast Business Services. They might as well just play Jeopardy music.
Sometimes they do.
They might as well. Well, thanks for being on the show, and I'll leave all your links in the show notes, and let's stay in touch.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Jimmy. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks again.
Thanks for tuning into Crazy Fitness by Healthy Living podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review. Your reviews help us be discovered by more people all over the world. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you get notified of every new show. In the meantime, please connect with us on social media at Crazy Fitness Guy and follow Jimmy Clare at Jimmy Clara Speaker or Jimmy Clara Speak. While you wait for another brand new episode, please go check out crazyfitnessguy.com. Check out the latest blog posts, events, sales, and more. Hope to see you again next time.
Hydro Flask is the best water bottle in my opinion because it keeps my water nice, cold, and refreshing throughout the day. And yes, I do drink a lot of water throughout the day, so even though it stays colder for longer, I still like having a reusable water bottle like Hydro Flask because it just sits on my desk and reminds me, hey, you gotta drink water. And Hydro Flask, it keeps it cold longer, which makes me want to drink more water throughout the day because, there's nothing worse than drinking warm water. Go to hydroflask.com and use the link in the show notes. And yes, I do get a small commission from Hydro Flask, which also helps support the show. So tell them I sent you, use the link below, and check out hydroflask.com for more information.